3 nights before the steakhouse stunt, I walked into the kitchen around 5 in the morning, looking to grab some Tums and maybe a slice of leftover pizza. I'd been up half the night with heartburn, mostly from stress, partly from cheap bourbon. I stopped dead when I saw her. Lorna was at the kitchen table, hunched over a stack of papers like a high school teacher grading final exams. Glasses on, red pen in hand, lips pursed. She had her bathrobe half open and one leg bouncing under the chair like she'd chugged a pot of coffee. She didn't hear me at first. Then I cleared my throat. She jolted like she'd been caught stealing and scrambled to cover everything with her arms. I watched her slide the whole stack into a shiny pink envelope. Big loopy letters on the front read, "Happy birthday, you sexy thing." What the hell kind of birthday card needs 30 pages of attachments? She looked up at me, wide-eyed, fake smile plastered across her face like wallpaper. "Oh, hey babe," she said. "Just getting your birthday stuff ready." "Since when do you call me babe?" I asked. She laughed, too loud, too high-pitched, and stood up like that would distract me. "Don't be weird. Go back to bed. I didn't expect you to be up." "Yeah, clearly," I said, eyeing the envelope. She clutched it to her chest like it was a baby, walked right past me and dropped it in her purse hanging by the back door. Didn't say another word, and that was it. The rest of that week, she acted normal. Woke up before me every day, made her usual black coffee, barely looked at me while I sat there drinking mine. The pink envelope just sat in her purse the whole time, like a loaded gun with the safety off. I didn't say anything, but I kept thinking about those pages. I'd seen the top corner of one before she stuffed it away. Notice of filing. I'd seen enough court docs in my life to recognize the font and layout, so I started looking for clues. She left her laptop open once. I peeked. Chrome tabs about divorce strategy, alimony in Indiana, how to serve someone creatively. Not even kidding. I guess she thought doing it in a steakhouse would be cute. She probably figured I wouldn't make a scene if her mom was there, if the whole family was around. Like their presence would turn me into some obedient little clown. But here's the thing she never figured out. Once I caught her that morning, I stopped being surprised. The whole rest of the week, I watched her like a hawk. Not angry, just done. She'd make little comments like, "This year's gonna be a turning point for you, I can feel it." Or, "We're all really proud of how you've been pushing yourself lately." Proud? She hadn't said that word in years. And we? I didn't ask who the hell we was. I already knew. Every sentence felt like a setup. Like she was trying to paint a nice frame around a dumpster fire. And that pink envelope? It stayed zipped up in her purse until the night of the dinner. She never once offered it to me early, never even hinted, because it wasn't a gift. It was a performance. And I was supposed to be the fool clapping along. But that morning at the kitchen table, that's when the game started. And I'd already decided I wasn't playing. That moment at the kitchen table didn't come out of nowhere. That was just the finish line. The slow breakdown started years earlier, right after the honeymoon, when it became real that Lorna had married beneath her, as her mom put it. They didn't say that to my face, of course. Not at first. But Joyce made it obvious in the way she talked about me like I was a foster dog they'd taken in. At every holiday party or barbecue, she'd introduce me with the same line. "This is Doug. He used to work construction." Not does construction. Not even still finding work. Just used to. Like I was already expired. Never mind that I was doing maintenance at a retirement complex, fixing busted boilers and unclogging toilets for 80-year-olds who thanked me with brownies and $20 bills. Never mind that I was patching drywall and running new pipe on the side just to keep us afloat. To her, if it wasn't a salary with a W-2, it didn't count. At dinners, they'd go around the table, bragging like it was a LinkedIn feed. Tiffany just got promoted to VP. Craig closed on a second property in Bloomington. Joyce's friend's son just finished law school. Then they'd look at me and pause. No questions, no, "How's it going?" Just that awkward silence like I was some foreign exchange student who didn't speak the language. One time, I brought up that I'd fixed a busted water main in freezing rain. Took me 7 hours, no help. Lorna's brother-in-law, Craig, smiled and said, "That's gotta be hard on the knees at your age." Joyce chuckled. Lorna sipped her wine and said nothing. Every time I left their house, I felt like I'd taken a test. I didn't know I was failing. Then came Christmas. Everyone else got real gifts, watches, scarves, gift cards, fancy liquor. I unwrapped mine and found a used paperback called Reinventing Your Work Life After 50. No card, just wrapped in a page from the Sunday paper. Joyce smiled and said, "Thought it might help. You've still got time." Lorna laughed like it was sweet, like her mom wasn't spitting in my face. I looked at Lorna and said, "You think this is funny?" She shrugged. It's not a bad book. I could have walked out right then. Should have. But I didn't. I stayed. Because that's what they expected me to do. Sit down, smile, and take it. And I did for a while. Her mom had poisoned the well, sure, but Lorna handed her the damn cup. It wasn't one big explosion. No cheating, no screaming fights. Just slow, quiet rot. 2 years of being tolerated instead of loved. Judged instead of supported. Mocked instead of believed in. And through all of it, I kept thinking, maybe I'll turn it around. Maybe next month, next season, next job. But Lorna had already made up her mind. She wasn't waiting for me to change. She was waiting for the moment it would look good on camera. After that Christmas disaster, I stopped hoping for a damn thing from any of them. Not praise, not support, not even a pat on the back. Instead, I went inward. Started waking up before the sun, before Lorna, before the house filled with her sighs and that dead silence she weaponized so well. I'd sit in the kitchen with a mug of cheap black coffee and scroll job boards on my phone. When that got old, I'd drive to the public library just to use the desktop computers and breathe different air. Learned how to format a halfway decent resume. Watched YouTube videos about cover letters, interview etiquette, how not to sound desperate even when you were. I applied to everything. Front desk jobs at budget hotels, facility roles at schools, groundskeeping at apartment complexes, hell, even a driver gig that wanted at least 2 years professional courier experience. I didn't have that. I applied anyway. Most places ghosted me. A few sent polite rejection emails. One guy actually laughed on the phone when I said I'd been doing freelance plumbing and the handyman work. "Oh, so nothing official then," he said. Click. That one stung, but I kept going. About a month into the grind, I sold my old Ford truck. Beat to hell. Rust around the wheel wells, but it still ran. Took that money and signed up for HVAC night classes at the trade school over in Marion. Twice a week. 6 to 9 p.m. I didn't tell Lorna right away. Figured I'd wait until it was real. But the first night I came home with a textbook and safety goggles, she raised her eyebrows like I'd walked in wearing a clown wig. "You gonna fix the furnace or build a time machine?" she asked. "HVAC," I said. "Certification in 6 months if I pass everything." She smirked. "Look at you. Finally doing something useful with your hands." That was her version of encouragement. Later that week, Joyce found out. I heard her on speakerphone say, "That's cute. Trying to play catch-up now, huh?" I walked into the room mid-call. Lorna didn't even flinch. She just turned the volume down a little like I was the janitor sweeping nearby. Joyce kept talking. "He should have done that 20 years ago. It's hard starting over at that age." I leaned in and said, "Yeah, well, some of us don't get trust funds and catered careers." Lorna shot me a look like I'd just pissed on the carpet. After that, they didn't talk about it much. Like ignoring it made it less real, but I showed up to class every night. Sat next to guys half my age and took notes like my life depended on it, because it did. I had no backup plan. I had no time to waste. When tests came around, I studied on my lunch breaks, on weekends, in the truck while waiting for Lorna to finish shopping. She'd come out with bags of crap we didn't need and say stuff like, "Hope school's teaching you how to pay for this soon." I bit my tongue so hard sometimes I tasted blood, but I kept at it. Got a B+ on my first big exam. Instructor told me I was solid with diagnostics. Just needed to work on wiring diagrams. I nodded and stayed after class to ask questions. No one clapped. No one at home gave a damn, but for once I felt like I was clawing towards something instead of just sitting still, waiting for life to decide I didn't count anymore. One night, I caught Lorna flipping through my textbook while I was in the shower. Not reading it, just skimming, like she was trying to figure out if it was real or just another phase. When she heard me come in, she tossed it back on the table and said, "You better not fail. We can't afford another dead-end project." I didn't answer her, just dried off, grabbed the book, and went to bed early. I wasn't trying to prove anything to her anymore. I was trying to prove it to myself, that I could still climb out of the hole, even if no one was willing to throw down a rope. I kept my head down after that night. No more arguing, no more biting my tongue bloody, just school, side work, and the job boards. I got used to silence, real silence, not just in the house, but in my inbox. Every application felt like dropping a rock in a well and waiting for a splash that never came. Then I saw this one post, luxury resort downstate, 3 hours south near French Lick. They were hiring a building operations supervisor, full-time, benefits, on-site housing. I almost didn't apply, thought it was one of those jobs they already had someone lined up for. But I figured hell with it. What was one more rejection? So I filled it out, cleaned up my resume again, listed Mr. Cardenas, the old building manager from my first apartment complex job, as my reference. He'd liked me, always said I was the only guy who actually cared about fixing things right the first time. I clicked send and didn't tell a soul. Not Lorna, not my trade school instructor, not even Hank, my old buddy from back when I still had a circle of people to grab beers with. It felt too good to risk jinxing. A few weeks before my birthday, I'd almost given up. No call, no email. Figured it was gone. Then, out of nowhere, I got the call. Monday afternoon, I was folding a basket of laundry, mostly Lorna's, stuff she'd started and left, sitting in the dryer for 2 days. I had my phone in my back pocket, and when it rang, I almost didn't answer. Unknown number, Southern Indiana area code. "Hello?" I said. "Hi, is this Doug?" "Yeah, this is Amanda from Whitewood Pines Resort. You applied for the building ops supervisor role?" I had to sit down. My knees actually buckled a little. She kept going. "We really liked your resume. Your hands-on background is actually what we look for. You're not just a clipboard guy. You know how to get stuff done." I must have said, "Yes, ma'am," 5 times during that call. We talked about the job for 10 minutes, housing included. Base salary, 58 grand, full health, dental, the works. Then she said, "We'd like to offer it to you. You'd be reporting to our head of maintenance. You'd have a team. And we'd like you to start before the season picks up." I didn't hesitate. "I accept." She laughed. "That was easy. Not on my end," I said. We worked out the details. They'd send a full offer letter by email. Start date was flexible. They even offered to help with the move. I thanked her again, hung up, and just sat there, in silence, the dryer humming behind me, half a towel still in my lap. I didn't tell Lorna, didn't tell Hank, didn't tell anyone. I just looked around the house and knew it wasn't mine anymore. Not really. It was her stage, her family's little dollhouse project. But this job, this was mine. I went to class that night like normal, took notes, answered questions, studied pipe diagrams, acted like nothing had changed, but everything had, because for once, I had something in my pocket that no one could take or belittle or mock. It wasn't some dream. It was real. An address, a salary, a key card with my name on it, waiting somewhere far from the mess I'd been living in, and I wasn't about to let anybody ruin that. I didn't even want to go. That Thursday, I came home from trade school ready to fake a stomach ache and stay in bed. But Lorna was already dressed like she was going to a gala, heels, red dress, curls done up, like she'd hired someone. "It's your birthday," she said, tossing me a clean button-up. "You're not skipping." So I put it on, combed my hair, and drove us to Outback in silence. The moment we walked in, I knew something was off. Joyce was standing by the table like she was hosting the Golden Globes. Craig had a sport coat on, and Tiffany looked like she was about to sell real estate. Everyone smiled too wide. The table was already set with drinks, menus fanned out like props. Joyce kissed my cheek like she hadn't spent the last 2 years slowly peeling off my dignity, one insult at a time. "We're celebrating you tonight," she said. I muttered, "Lucky me," and sat down at the end of the booth, back to the wall. Old habit. Lorna slid in next to me. Her purse hit the seat with that familiar thud, same purse that had held the glittery envelope all week. I ordered a ribeye, medium rare, drank a whiskey neat, tried to focus on the food, but the air was too sweet, fake, like they were trying to sell me something I didn't want. Joyce kept making little toasts about new chapters and growth and being brave enough to change your life. Craig chimed in with something about betting on yourself. I just chewed my steak and nodded. Then, right as the server dropped off dessert, lava cake with a sad candle in the middle, Joyce stood up and tapped her glass. "I just want to say something," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to look over. "This man has come a long way. He's been through a lot, and sometimes the best gift you can give someone," she paused for dramatic effect, "is freedom." Then she reached into her purse and pulled out the envelope. Pink, glittery, same dumb bow from earlier that week. She slid it across the table like it was a coupon. "From all of us," she said. Lorna had her phone out already, camera aimed right at my face. I looked at her. "You recording this?" She smiled. "It's just for me." Tiffany was smirking like she'd been let in on a secret early. I opened the envelope, pulled the papers out slow. Top page said, "Petition for dissolution of marriage." Filed, stamped, just waiting for one last signature. I stared at it for a second, felt nothing. I reached over, grabbed the pen Joyce had already laid on the table like a prop, and signed my name, nice and slow. Then I slid the paperwork back across the table. "Appreciate it," I said. "Best birthday gift I've gotten in years." The whole table went quiet. I stood up, dropped a 20 for the server. Wasn't her fault the circus rolled through her section and started walking. Lorna called after me. "Doug, wait." I didn't. I walked straight out the front door, out into the parking lot, cool night air hitting my face like a slap I needed. Didn't look back. Didn't slam the door or yell or throw some dramatic fit. That's what they wanted, for me to break down on camera so they could say, "See, told you he couldn't handle it." But I didn't give them that. I gave them silence, calm, dignity. I got in my car, started the engine, and just sat there a second. Then I laughed, a real laugh, first one in months, because they had no clue I'd already accepted a new job 3 days before that dinner. Housing included, salary locked in, move-in date negotiable. They thought they were throwing me out, but the joke was on them. I'd already left. 2 days after the steakhouse ambush, I called Amanda in HR. Her voice came through bright and chipper, like she'd been waiting on me. "You ready to set a move-in date?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, "soon as possible." "We can send a truck," she offered. "Pack you up, make it easy." "No need, I'll handle it." She gave me the move-in instructions, access code for the gate, and said they'd have the fridge stocked. I hung up and stared out the window for a long minute. Then I got up, walked to the closet, and grabbed the duffel bag I'd packed halfway 3 weeks back. That Sunday, Lorna was still holed up at Joyce's, probably soaking in the applause. I didn't wait for her to come home. I boxed up my tools, work boots, and the textbooks from trade school, packed 2 weeks of clothes, my shaving kit, and the few things in that house that still felt like mine. Didn't touch the wedding photos. Didn't need anything from our life together. I left her a note on the kitchen counter. "Thanks for the freedom, I'll be fine." Then I walked out without locking the door, let her deal with it. The studio apartment above the maintenance shop was bigger than I expected. Clean, smelled like fresh paint and lemon cleaner. The bed was made, the fridge had eggs, milk, and cold beer. My name was already on the door. That hit me harder than I thought it would. I didn't take a break. I went straight to work. Long days, double shifts, took the crappiest assignments. Anything to stay busy. The head of maintenance, Carl, was old school, gray ponytail, called everyone boss. After 2 weeks, he trusted me enough to leave me in charge while he went to a dental appointment. That turned into Fridays, then full weekends. 4 months in, Amanda from HR called again. "Just wanted to say congratulations," she said. "You're officially senior supervisor now. Raise kicks in next pay cycle." I thanked her, hung up, and let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. One afternoon, I checked my phone after lunch and saw 3 missed calls, all from Lorna's number. There was a voicemail. I played it on speaker while sorting supply orders. Joyce's voice. "Doug, I think we should talk about everything. Call me back." I deleted the message without blinking and blocked the number. Next day, another message came in through email, different tone, still her. "Saw a review from a friend who stayed at your resort. Said the maintenance was exceptional. Said the man who helped fix her AC was polite and professional. That was you, wasn't it?" Damn right it was. But I didn't answer. That compliment was the only thing she'd ever sent my way that wasn't dipped in sarcasm or dressed up like a charity handout. And even that came secondhand. Let her sit with that. I spent my evenings walking the grounds with my clipboard, checking AC units and busted outdoor lighting. Got used to hearing, "Hey Doug," from coworkers and guests alike. One night, Carl clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Whole place runs smoother with you here. Appreciate how you handle your crew." I nodded and kept walking, because that's all I wanted. Respect. No cameras, no speeches, no glittery envelopes pretending to be gifts. Just people who saw me for what I actually did. That resort became home fast. Not because of the pay or the view or the stocked fridge, but because nobody there looked at me like I was something broken they were stuck with. They saw a guy who showed up, fixed what was busted, and didn't make excuses. And that was worth more than anything Joyce could ever write in a Christmas card. Most days started before sunrise. I'd grab coffee from the staff kitchen, walk the perimeter, check systems logs, and map out the day's assignments for the crew. It was calm, predictable, solid. My new team respected me. Young guys, mostly, some still figuring out how to swing a hammer without breaking something. But they listened, they showed up. And more than anything, they appreciated when I showed them how to do things right instead of just yelling when they got it wrong. The head of operations pulled me aside one day after lunch and said, "You've got patience most don't. That's hard to teach." I nodded, didn't brag, didn't gloat, just said, I've been on the other side of it. I know what it's like. They started sending new hires my way automatically after that. I didn't mind. I like teaching. I like seeing them get it. Every once in a while, I'd pass a mirror in one of the hallways and catch my reflection. Uniform tucked in, name patch clean, boots polished. I'd think about the way I used to look walking into Joyce's living room. Back then I looked like guilt wrapped in denim. Now I looked like a man again. I drove a company truck, not flashy, but new. White Chevy with the logo on the door and tools in the back. Sometimes after a long day, I'd take the long way home, cut through the scenic route by the lake. No destination, just peace. Better than sitting through a dinner table of forced compliments and quiet judgment. No Lorna nitpicking every move. No Joyce looking at me like I'd tracked in mud just by existing. Now I ate alone, sure, but I did it on my own terms. I never kept tabs on them. Didn't need to, didn't want to. But now and then, their names popped up, usually through guests or online reviews. I heard Tiffany and Craig were trying to sell their second property. Saw Joyce's name listed as a panel speaker for some financial planning event. Didn't click, didn't care. The only real update I got came secondhand, from one of our guests. Lady in her 50s. Her AC went out mid-June. I went up to fix it myself. She stood there talking while I worked. Mentioned being from Carmel, same as Joyce. Said she worked at a community bank. The woman who trains us reminds me of you, she said. Calm, focused, doesn't waste words. I laughed a little. Does she talk too much when other people are working? She grinned. Nope. She used to, though. Not so much anymore. I tightened the last bolt, gave her instructions for the thermostat, and left. Later that week, I saw a glowing online review. Maintenance staff is top-notch, polite, quick, especially Doug. He fixed our AC like it was nothing. No mistaking who that came from. I imagine Joyce reading it. Imagine her realizing I wasn't buried. I was thriving, out of her reach. No revenge post, no dramatic monologue, just doing my job better than she ever thought I could. That was justice. Not loud, not viral, just cold, clean, and quiet. The kind of justice that shows up wearing a crisp uniform and gets the job done. It was a Thursday mid-afternoon, right between check-ins and dinner rush. I was walking the East Wing, doing a follow-up on a slow drain in room 218, when this older couple stopped me in the hallway. The man had a folded-up brochure in his shirt pocket. The woman held a wide-brimmed sun hat and smiled like we were old friends. "Excuse me," she said. "Do you happen to know any good local restaurants?" "Sure," I said. "You want fancy or just something solid?" "Something real," she said. "We're from Carmel. Hard to find food that's not trying too hard." I raised an eyebrow. "Carmel, huh?" She nodded. "Yep. I work at the community bank there. Joyce Hargrove's my supervisor." She said it like that name was supposed to mean something good. I smiled, real slow. "Tell her Doug says thanks for the push." The woman tilted her head. "Sorry? Doesn't matter," I said. "There's a diner down the road. Real food. No frills." She thanked me and they kept walking, confused but polite. I stood there a second longer than I needed to. Then I turned and headed back down the hall, grinning to myself like I'd just won a bet no one else knew I placed. That night, I sat on the balcony outside my apartment, cracked open a cold beer, and watched the lights from the city flicker below. There weren't any fireworks, no parades, no big finale, just quiet, clean air, a job done right. That was enough. Some people leave a bad marriage with broken glass and lawyer bills. I walked out with my back straight, a key card in my pocket, and not a single regret. 18 months later, I was out in the back lot of the resort, standing beside the HVAC unit with a kid named Trey, new hire, fresh out of trade school, still wearing work boots with the tag on the sole. I was walking him through safety checks, watching him fumble with a voltmeter like it was his first day holding one. "Don't rush," I said. "Fry yourself, and I'm not filling out the report." He laughed, nervous, then looked up at me and asked, "So, how'd you land a gig like this, especially at your age?" I didn't blink, just said, "Someone handed me divorce papers once. Best career move I ever made." He stared at me for a second, then cracked up. We didn't say anything else about it. Didn't need to. The guys on my team respected me. They listened. They didn't treat me like I was some washed-up old man with nothing left to offer. My boss trusted me, gave me weekends to run solo ops, let me hire the right kind of crew. I slept through the night now. No pacing, no sinking gut, no fake smiles waiting at the kitchen table, no judgment when I kicked off my boots, no phones pointed at my face, waiting to capture a weak moment. I didn't have to keep my guard up anymore. And every so often, maybe once a month, I'd see a friend request pop up from someone in Lorna's family, Tiffany, even Joyce once, under some weird business alias. I never accepted. Didn't block them either. Let them see just enough. New photo in uniform. A comment from a coworker saying, "Great work this week." No hashtags, no petty captions, just calm, steady living.